Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're a new listener, welcome. Really happy to have you here. And if you've been with us for a while, of course, I'm happy that you're here as well. I'm Dr. Margot Jaco. I'm your mental health business mentor. This podcast is to help you figure out how to grow the practice of your dreams. So today we are going to be talking about something that I think we all need to know about, which is how to run a profitable practice, which sounds like maybe for some who are newer to the world of private practice, of course I want to run a profitable practice. Isn't that easy to do? Look at all the money we get. Well, no. I mean, actually, I think most folks listening to this would say quite the opposite, is that it can be a complex balance, especially as you grow and scale. And I've certainly found that in my own practice. I have a large group practice in the Chicago area. We have 7 locations. We have 82 therapists. It's a lot. And it's very easy at any stage of practice to flip upside down, meaning you are no longer profitable. And I hear from practice owners with some frequency saying, I have to close my doors. I can't pay myself. How do I ever give people raises? People are leaving because I can't give them more money. It's a complex puzzle that needs to be solved. And I think our lovely guest today is going to help us do just that. So let me tell you about our guest today. Today we have Brie Chrisman, the founder and CEO of Bosco, an operations management company that works 100% virtually, yay you, with over 15 years of experience in the project management and operations fields. Brie has taken a difficult Let's try that again. Brie has taken a different approach to making an impact on businesses. She has revolutionized the way businesses operate by introducing the solution for overwhelm for CEOs. Well, thank goodness. I mean, somebody needs to be doing that. Her commitment to a human first approach has led her to serve CEOs in this field, the mental health field. So, welcome, Brie Crispin. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Margot. I'm excited to be here.
I love the name of your company. It's Bosco. And folks, you might
Yep.
not think, well, but are we talking about all kinds of bosses? But you specialize, it sounds like, in helping mental health practice owners, CEOs, because folks, that's really the seat we ought to be sitting in,
Yep.
grow and develop and be profitable. So tell us about Bosco.
Yes, thank you. So Bosco started about 5.5 years ago as of the time of our recording. So in July of 2020, during, the lovely height of the pandemic.
Oh, great.
Um, and I know, right? And we started off working with several different, and by we, I mean, I started off working with several different industries. Like, didn't have a team back then. It
Yeah.
was me and my 8-month-old, just hanging out on the couch,
Right.
um,
Yep. You're
running
like,
a
now what
business.
do we do? Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, we started doing operations support in a variety of different industries. It was really great because I got to work with people that I actually enjoyed working with, and I got to make the decisions that I wanted to versus just following the path of someone else who owned a different company.
Hmm.
And so I'm very opinionated and I'm very straightforward with things that I am passionate about. And so efficiency is something I'm very passionate about. So the amount of times I've said in other jobs, like, why are we doing this? It's a lot. So my husband has heard lots and lots of earfuls over the last 15 years. So now I get to work with people that I actually enjoy working with and doing things that we actually enjoy doing. And because we grew for our first 5 years or so, grew solely off referrals. And because we had a great referral system, about year three, we ended up with 90% mental health providers. And so we took a look. We are like, you know what? Let's just go all into mental health because they're our favorite clients. It's our favorite industry. We can go deeper and we can go heavier and we can go into compliance and HR and do all the things we didn't have time to do when we were spread across so many different industries. And so
Mhm.
we haven't looked back and it's been amazing. And we get to, I was not called to be a therapist. I do not have the patience for it. I would like to think in another life I would be a therapist, but not this life. And so I was born to be a puzzle person in operations and trying to figure all those things out and make them
Mhm.
easier. And so I get to do that for therapists, for practice owners, and that's kind of my drop in the pond to support mental health industry as a whole. If we can pull the burnout back and we can pull things off people's plates and be able to give them some relief and give them some more profit or more time profit or money profit, they can support the people around them, and those people can support those people, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's
Mm,
kind of our philosophy.
Brie, I love that. So, right. So
Thanks.
time profit or money profit, or potentially both. I mean,
Yeah.
how fabulous. So, because for a lot of practice owners, we are chief cook, bottle washer. We work in the business, on the business, around the business,
Yes.
and we are everything. And it
Hmm.
take quite a while for folks to feel like they can afford to have a team or to have somebody help them, which,
Hmm.
I get that. This is not easy, and margins in mental health are skinny. So I
Yes.
can imagine for the folks who are kind of looking at it saying, wow, I have to scale back and not use all of my time to do this and I can hire somebody else. That sounds terrifying. How am I going to pay that bill? But what folks don't always realize is that when we are doing the right things in our seat, we're filling our therapist caseloads better. We're using our
Yeah.
time for things that aren't necessarily just operations pieces. So, what kinds of things can you do for a practice owner? What exactly can you take off someone's plate?
Yeah, great question. So we have a variety of different services. Our main couple services we provide, we basically have something for everyone. And it's not so much that it's the jack of all trades, but it's meeting you where you're at. So we have a blog with amazing resources if you're just kind of starting out, trying to get a feel for maybe you want to start a group practice, maybe you're just starting a solo practice. We have a digital store that we hope to get up and running. I think I've said this on like 7 podcasts in the past year, and we still haven't gotten it up because,
You're
we
busy.
yeah, and in CEO life, you sometimes you're working in the business more than on the business. And
Yep,
so that's it has been backburnered.
yep, yep, yep.
But then we have consulting. So that's for typically solo practice owners that want to go into group or group that are kind of just stuck. They have a team or they just don't need more support. They just want that strategic support and accountability. We do
Mhm.
that monthly in quarterly consulting with me. It's strategic operations or just strategic growth planning. But then our main services, we have operations support, which is really us coming in, one of our team members or a couple of our team members coming in, working directly with the practice owner, saying, "Hey, Margot, what is on your plate today? What are your biggest pain points?" And typically that could be like, "Oh, well, I just have too many emails coming in into my inbox. Like I can't manage my inbox." And we hear this a lot. And this is actually a common problem that we work with, especially in the beginning. And so if you say to me, I just have way too many emails, I can't get through it all. And we look in your inbox and we realize that it's not an email, an inbox issue, it's a communication issue. And so we're
Mhm.
not just going in like a VA and just, managing your inbox and telling you what ones you need to handle and deleting and so on and so forth. We actually look at the root cause. So we're looking at, is the billing team emailing you every single time a card is declined? That does not need to happen. Are you
Mm,
getting questions about scheduling when that should be going to someone else? Are you getting questions about if you can start a group, if clinicians can start a group or something like that? Those questions should go to clinical director. Do you have an internal communication system with your team? Because that should not be in your inbox. So looking at the
mhm,
actual root cause of the problem and fixing those issues not only fixes your inbox so that you can actually see your client emails, but it also fixes a wide variety of other problems that you probably haven't even realized that are happening. And
mm,
so we come in and then we will help you with your inbox after that and make sure that we're
mhm,
flagging important emails and things like that, but really
mhm.
focusing on creating the systems around it and then supporting and getting you some quick wins as well. I feel like that's probably a really good example of something that we do in that operation support role.
It's fantastic. And
Thank you.
what? I bet listeners, and certainly I wasn't thinking the first place you were going to go was to the inbox. I do some consultation as well, and I have a client or a consultee who was just talking about this issue last week. I'm going to send her your information because she's
Perfect.
it's too much. She's bombarded constantly. And so, to your point, it's not an email issue, it's a communications issue.
Yeah.
So part of it,
Yes.
yes, it's organization and tracking and making sure things don't get missed. but what is appropriate to come to her and what is appropriate to go to somebody else?
Exactly.
And for us, I'll tell you, it can be really hard for practice
It is
owners, as
hard.
we've seen, to let if you can't see me, but I'm like peeling my fingers off, right? To peel our fingers off because we get
Yeah.
afraid something's going to go
Yeah.
sideways, it'll go south, somebody will miss something. And so we allow ourselves to get inundated and to see
Yes.
everything that's coming our way. What a time suck, what an energy suck. And again,
Yeah.
where is our time best spent? It's probably not with so-and-so's card was declined, right?
Yeah.
So, right, that's the billing manager's job or something else. So
Yes.
if we're fortunate
Exactly.
enough to have one, or to set up those
Yeah.
systems if we don't have a large team. So I love that. So
Exactly.
Bree, you can help people operationally, but you also talk about profitable practice, right? So as we mentioned, this can be really difficult. Revenue might be just fine, but how is cash flow? How is profit going? So can you talk a little bit about how do you define profitable practice and what do you see as the ways people are taking turns that maybe are going to the right when they should be going to the left and the left is going to take them where they want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. When we think of profitable practice, we don't just look at money because money isn't money isn't everything. If you are making millions of dollars and you are working 80 hours a week, you're not going to be able to enjoy that money. Profitable for us means both, money, but also time, energy, other things that are good and that can be enjoyable in your life. And a lot of times when we look at profit, we remind people that profit equals revenue minus expenses. It's not just revenue. It's not just the revenue making activities. So a lot of our competitors look at growth and support from a marketing lens, from a client growth lens, which are great. However, if your bottom line is so high that dropping one client puts you in hot water, that is not a good business model. And so we really look at it from the back end of, okay, let's look at expenses first, get that bottom line as efficient as possible. You can nickel and dime it all you want. You can bootstrap it, but you can also have, the luxuries of having benefits for your clinicians and having, a retreat for your clinicians or lunch on Fridays or something like that. You can still have those things and still have a really efficient, really streamlined bottom line. And so
Mhm.
that just brings us back to operations of looking at, okay, it's not always just X plus Y equals Z. It's very much if you're getting clients, are they onboarding? Do you have an onboarding process that actually converts clients? Because you can spend thousands of dollars on Google Ads, but if you don't have a way to onboard them in a way that clients feel supported the entire way through, they're not going to stay. And so that goes into client retention, it goes into churn rate and all of those fun numbers for metrics. But looking at making sure that you are creating a sustainable environment for your clients, the longer a client stays on, the more profit you get from them because you're not having to bring in more clients, which means less marketing dollars and all of that. Um,
Mhm.
but then also we look at team members. If you have clinician A over here that's doing admin work and clinician B over here that's doing admin work, and clinician A is doing social media, but they hate it, but they love to alphabetize. And clinician B over here hates doing paperwork but loves the creative side, swap their roles. And I guarantee they will
Mm,
be so much more productive. They will love their job. They will be excited to do it. It'll be done faster, which means bottom line for you is better. And
mhm.
they will be willing to do more and be really empowered in their role. And so when bringing it back, when we come to profitability, it's not just that bottom line or that top line. It really is looking at the cohesiveness of the entire environment and looking at the sustainability of the practice holistically.
Mm, I love that. And that's something that you would assist practice owners in doing, making sure people are in the right seats because
Yes.
they'll be happier. And to your point, Right. When people are happier, they do better work. If they're in the right
Hmm.
seat, they'll do better work. Their
Yep.
longevity with the practice will likely be greater. You also
Yep.
mentioned the churn rate. And for anybody who's not familiar with that, when you're talking about, well, clients will stay longer, of course, as is clinically appropriate. One
Yes, of
of the
course.
dilemmas for most practices is clinicians who don't have a good retention rate. I think everyone
Yep.
can relate to that. We need to have a good retention rate in order for us to be able to be profitable. And the retention is, of course, appropriate. It's clinically appropriate. We're talking about, when you talk about churn rate, it's because the therapist doesn't know what to do. Maybe they don't have the support that they need and they're losing
Yep.
clients. So it's not unusual for practices to be tracking who's
Hmm.
coming in, how many calls do we get? Yay, we have calls. Well, guess what? You're talking about something really important. Track their journey. Do they get onboarded? Do they get moved into the system? They're
Yep.
knocking at your door. Do you let them in? Do you say, come in,
Yeah.
please sit down? Or are they ringing the ring doorbell and kind of hoping somebody can see them? And then
Yeah.
we're making sure that they are getting what they need so they'll appropriately stay, not inappropriately leave early. So I think that's what you're talking about with
Yes.
churn rate. So these are all things that you're helping practice owners track, whether they're
Hmm.
individual or a group practice owner. We all need to keep track of that because, to your point, if you're spending a lot of money on client acquisition, Google Ads, which is the most robust way if you don't have
Yeah.
a great physician who refers everybody to you, or
Hmm.
schools or whomever can just be kind of a pipeline. It's a great way to go, but you've got to have a good system set up. So if you think about, you're talking about a term that I think is really a wonderful one, which is kind of a healthy business model. So, what is a healthy business model in the mental health field?
That is such an interesting question. And I feel like a lot of it comes back to what we were just talking about profitability and what that looks like.
Mhm,
Having that, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that too, making sure that things are working properly, but also
mhm,
making sure that you are working properly and your clinicians are
mhm,
working properly. And
mhm,
that doesn't mean that you're getting, I mean, obviously we want to get all our notes done, but that doesn't mean it's just you're getting your notes done, you're seeing your clients, check, 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 check. It means that you have space, the mental and emotional space to hold your feelings, and you
mhm,
have the capacity to be there for your clients, to be there for your clinicians, but then also have the capacity outside of work to be there for your people too. And having when we talk about healthy workplace, healthy practice, I'm going to go shift to kind of a group practice model here. You know, it's like you said, the margins are very slim, profit margins are very slim. And so it creates a lot of stress and it creates a lot of pressure that you sometimes put on your clinicians. And so having a really healthy workplace for your clinicians is also super important. And that
mhm,
starts with onboarding, just like client onboarding, making
mhm,
sure that they feel supported from the get-go. And as you know, probably Margot, that the typical or the average rate that someone stays at a practice is about a year and a half to 2 years. And so if you are constantly cycling through clinicians, that's really hard. And that's really expensive because if it takes 6 months for them to get to a full caseload, that's 6 months that they are just sitting draining cash from your bank account, which of
mhm,
course is important. You have to train them, you have to get them up and running. They need to get the right fits. You don't want clients just coming in just to fill the seat because that's not going to work and those clients are going to churn. But having that support of your team and giving them
mhm,
what they need, whether that's professional development, whether that's an additional supervisor, a clinical director, having the space so that they feel supported. You hear that word. I keep coming up with that word over and over again, but it is about the support. It's about, and we might be a little woo woo on that front, with a consulting operations firm. It's usually like numbers and here and this and this and this, but we're very much, if you go into every day thinking, I am going to treat people like a human, you're, that's all you have to do. That's really
mhm,
not
mhm.
difficult. And
I
so
love
if
that.
you put everything through a human first lens, you should be able to make the tough decisions and the easy decisions and be able to create a healthy practice for yourself and for everyone around you, including your clients.
Hmm. I love that, Brie. That's fabulous, right? So, right, when you're not just talking about a healthy business plan, oh, a
Um,
really smart, good business plan, you're talking about human first. And if you start
yeah.
there and sort of reverse engineer, right? Quality of
Yep.
life for everyone, knowing that
Yes.
margins are small, but we can't do this without treating people well. We can't do this without people feeling supported, from our clients
Yes.
to our clinicians. Our organizational chart, because we're the Juniper Center, named the practice in the era of the tree, when everybody was
Mm-hmm.
naming their practices after trees, that kind of dates when I started at this. But so our organizational chart, instead of being a pyramid with me at the top, at the little tippy top,
Mm-hmm.
as the owner and the CEO and whatever else, chief cook, bottle washer, it's a
Yep.
tree. And so
Yep.
I'm the roots, and
Yes.
I need to be the sustenance to feed, right? It's my job to
Yes.
support the next level that's above me. And then it's their job to provide sustenance. And then, up to the clinicians, and
Mm-hmm.
then the leaves or the clients. And that's our
Yes.
organizational chart. So I think that's kind of, I'm glad to hear you describe it that way, because that's kind
Yeah.
of the way I like to think about it. Everyone ought to feel supported.
Yes.
And again, we're a
That's
larger practice. That's always the goal.
Yeah, that's such a good analogy because when you're at the top and you have the regular org chart, you're up there by yourself. But if you're the
Right,
roots, your leadership team is the trunk they're holding up, and then you have the
right.
branches and you have that's I might need to steal that analogy. But it's
Oh,
yeah, it's so important. And I could sit here and talk about you should have X number of profit margin and this number in your cash flow and do all the actual number finance metrics and the practice metrics, the client metrics, but it's going to be different like depending on what your practice is. It's completely unique to you. One person's client retention could be 80% and another's could be 20%. But the thing is, they could be working on completely different topics. And so
mm,
that those are not comparable numbers. And so
mm.
me just throwing out random numbers is not helpful. So looking at it from that human lens, you know what's right for you and for your team.
Exactly. I love that. And, I think folks will do that. They will toss out numbers. I had a lovely guest once who is a really smart CPA. But her perspective was really a business ought to have between, if your business isn't 40% profit, then you're doing something wrong. Well, in behavioral health, it's not how that works.
Yeah.
So that's probably true, when we always sell widgets, whatever, if you're selling widgets or book
Yeah.
bags, I don't know. But to have what you're saying is this is really specific to the business. And I would love to have you come back at some point, Bree, and talk about metrics, because I don't think practice owners get much education on metrics, reading a profit and loss sheet, reading a balance sheet. I mean, all those things. If you'd ever be interested, I love to invite guests back, because we start the conversation and then we, get
Yeah.
to that point where we need to wrap up and,
Yeah.
maybe think of a part two.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, that would be great. But if a practice owner is feeling kind of stuck, they want to grow, and
Hmm.
they want to protect their team, which is,
Hmm.
kind of to your point of everybody needs to feel taken care of. What suggestions would you offer for folks? Right. So just like you're trying to grow, but you want to take good care of your team, what would you suggest?
Yeah, that's so great. First, I would look and say, do my growth goals align with my values? Number one. Do my growth goals align with the team I currently have? If not, that's okay. I think that there are people and times, it's just like our lives are books. And so there might be a chapter where people are really great. Not saying fire your team because your growth goals are different. That is not what I'm saying for the record. But if you have a bunch of pre-licensed clinicians and you know that they will be getting their full licensure next year, okay, if you want to pivot to a different industry within behavioral health, if you want to take a year off and do speaker tour, things like that, figure out where your people are now, what their goals are, and
Mm,
see if those align with what you have. Because honestly, there could be people that I want to become a supervisor, or I want to eventually become a clinical director, or be a clinical operations person where I don't really want to be seeing clients. I love the business side. Knowing
mhm,
those goals of your people is so important because you could really factor that into your goals as well if you already have people on your team that are amazing. And then really looking at your capacity and saying, what if your goal is, I don't know, some big goal that you have in the future and
mhm,
you are buried in work right now? First step I would do is do a time audit and really take a week and a
mm,
giant notepad and literally write down everything you do. Everything.
mhm.
And it's super annoying and will take forever, but it's so important because you can write emailed client, emailed billing team, emailed this, did this, checked these notes. All of those things are so important because then you can see you're like,
Yep.
oh, and then you start to see patterns and then you can see all these things can be delegated. All of these things I hate doing. Let me figure out where they can go. Can we
Mhm,
create a system that just eliminates these tasks? And so there's so much that you can get off your plate, which gives you more time to think about your business, think about growth, because that's the first step, right? Like you can't grow unless you have room to be creative and to create that growth. And so doing that is the first step. And then really learning how to delegate, really learning how to trust your team and
mm,
get support and ask for help. That is also one of the biggest challenges that our clients have is asking for help and being okay letting go physically and mentally, which is the hard part, letting go of those tasks mentally.
That's right. It's even harder to let go. I would say exponentially harder for folks to let
Yes.
go mentally. But boy,
Yes.
when people do and they feel the freedom and they have that time for
Yes.
creativity, that's when growth happens, whatever that growth is
Yes.
going to look like. It might be
Hmm.
adding one clinician, it might be adding a service. The growth might include just the ability for you to step back and breathe. That's
Yeah.
growth, right? So it's
Yes. To
also
take a vacation without your laptop, that is growth.
that's exactly that's
It's
growth. So we're
growth.
not just talking about get bigger. We're talking
Yeah.
about be better for
Yeah.
yourself and for your
Growth
team.
can be anything. Wait,
Love it.
anything that you want it to be. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Well, Bree, thank you so much for joining us today. If folks want to connect with you, learn more about you, learn about Bosco, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yes, thank you, Margot. Our website is really great. It has all the information about our services and then
It really
also
is,
really great
folks.
blog. Thank you. We just got it redone last year, and so it definitely feels more like us.
Mhm.
It's bosco.com, like hey. And then we're on Instagram, hey_Bosco, and we're on LinkedIn, same thing. Or you can search me, Brie Chrisman, and say hello. Feel free to email me at hello@heybosco.com as well. If you ever have just a question about business or you just want to get a coffee chat, get a virtual coffee because, wherever you are in the country, I am always up for that. And I love talking to providers and people in the mental health industry. And just if I can help with even one piece of advice or just little nugget, I am always willing and down to do that and always willing to drink some coffee. So,
Right? That's it. Well, cheers to you with my iced coffee on a
yes.
75-degree day in Chicago. You're in South Carolina. Hopefully, it's going to be a good day for all of us. But
Yes.
thank you, Brie Chrisman, for joining us today. Folks, please check out Bosco. Brie is lovely. It sounds, and I did check out your website. There's a lot of good information there. Please check them out. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone listening, thank you for being here. Please join us again next time. Be well.